Today, the concept of immigration is practically omnipresent in talks about modern issues, and no politician can do any sort of speech or debate without having to address it, whether it be building a wall, reforming the path to citizenship, or stopping entirely legal immigration from certain countries. Everyone has their own opinion on how to solve the problem it brings. Before I continue further, it is important for me to address several things. Firstly, I am biased in this matter. I believe the correct option is to reform our path to citizenship to make it easier for immigrants from every part of our world to assimilate into our society and become a productive citizen, and to reform how we treat deportation and our immigration caps. Another thing is that I need to elaborate on the different stances that exist on the subject. They are broken down into two basic categories: keeping immigrants in our country and keeping them out. Each one has its variants, but those are the basics. In addition, immigration simply refers to the act of someone from another country who comes to the U.S., in this case, to live for an extended period of time. The definition of immigrants, according to Merriam-Webster, is a person who comes to your country to take up permanent residence. Yet this definition is not so clearly translated into how the U.S. views immigrants. Some immigrants are only here for harvest season, some gain permanent residency but are not citizens, and only some of the immigrants end up being permanent residents and citizens. There is also the separate category of residents who never went through the proper process to live in the U.S. and are thus undocumented, thus technically illegal, but still remain anyways. This topic is incredibly important in today's setting because now, more than ever, there are people who are in need of refuge from their home country for one reason or another, whether that be war, poverty, prosecution, or anything else to that extent. Current immigration laws remain incredibly complex too, with the treatment of the validity of an immigration ranging wildly depending on factors like country, relation to U.S. citizens, current number of immigrants accepted this year. Not to mention the immigration court system is extremely dysfunctional, with only 50 physical courts in the U.S., and a backlog of almost 500,000 cases, and the violation of amendment rights. People often don't have the representation of a lawyer in the cases, and a judge has to handle 1,500 cases a year. Thus, sometimes they rush the case. And people may not even be told why they are faced with the possibility of deportation. The argument with the seemingly loudest voice today is that immigrants should be kept out of our country today. But why? Well, first and foremost is the argument that illegal immigrants are committing crimes within our country. And indeed some are. 40% of all criminal cases in 2013 in court districts neighboring the border, and about 42% of those crimes were violent or drug-related. On top of that, many people immigrating from Central America and Mexico go through the most grueling journeys that can end any one of a plethora of horrible situations, making a journey to the U.S. should discourage entirely. People get raped, tortured, and even killed, all to get here, so why should we even condone it by allowing it to happen? Not to mention Syrian refugees, many of which are associated with Islam, a religion that radical terrorists have associated themselves with the past. In addition, both these groups of immigrants have huge troubles assimilating into modern American society. And if they can't even do that, they shouldn't be allowed to live here at all. So when all these factors are considered, it should seem clear-cut that immigrants shouldn't come into the U.S., especially if it's not legally, and especially if they're criminals. However, the scope of these facts are very limited, making the issue a lot more complex. First off, crimes happen for too many reasons to count, but adding the rampant issues that Mexico and Central America are dealing with make it impossible to determine whether the crimes are really committed by true criminals. We don't know, for example, if an illegal immigrant that committed a murder was someone actually living in the U.S., or someone who flew over from a drug cartel to kill someone on bad terms with the cartel. We don't know if the status of any of the illegal immigrants that committed the crimes any further, then they didn't become legal, which is very hard in today's day and age. In fact, based on the statistic, we don't know if these crimes are committed by legal U.S. citizens or illegal immigrants. Furthermore, the U.S. has always had a moral obligation to help those in need. Many Americans pride themselves on the selflessness and opportunities the country possesses. And with 11 million undocumented immigrants, it doesn't seem fair that we keep this opportunity from them. Nor is it even humanitarian to subject people to the human rights violations that occur in their home countries. So America has an ethical responsibility to allow them to remain here. We currently have a 3,000 person cap on refugee immigration from the Near East and South Asia, and a cap of no more than 7% total immigration from any given country, which is terribly low considering how many people are being forced out of their homes in Syria. Even building a wall wouldn't help that much, because besides from causing huge civil unrest by cutting through villages and towns that are on the border, it wouldn't stop the 40% of immigration that occurs by plane smuggling, or any of the smugglings by boat or car. It would just stop the minority of those who chance running across the border. In fact, for migrant workers, the only thing a wall would do is stop them from leaving after harvest season ends. Thus, the complexity of the situation makes it hard to move forward with a decision that can undeniably be right, and the struggle constantly continues. One thing remains clear, however. Something needs to happen in this massive number of undocumented people in the U.S. to address the massive number of people who need a home but can't because of our limits. So the U.S. can have peace between those two sides and finally be a place of solace that it is for everyone.